This is how you make delicious brownies at home. Hi, today I'm going to be teaching you guys how to make easy brownies. So before we start anything, just like whenever we are baking, and like I've said in all my other videos, we want to make sure our hair is tied back if we have long hair like me. We want to make sure we are wearing appropriate clothing that's not going to get in our food or get in our way of making the food, and even an apron if you would want. And you want to make sure that you have all your ingredients and all the pans, bowls, and mixing ware that you need. So before we get started on making our batter, we're going to preheat our oven. For this recipe, you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit, and then you're going to get your pan that you're going to bake your brownies in. This is the pan I'm using. It's a metal pan, and it is 9 by 9 inches. And we're just going to spray this with cooking oil. I have canola oil, and we are just going to spray this. You could also use parchment paper. You just want to make sure that you're spraying all the sides and all the creases so your batter is not going to stick, and make sure you're covering those with parchment paper if you do decide to use parchment paper. We are just going to start on our dry ingredients. I added half a cup of all-purpose flour to my bowl, and now I'm also going to add half a cup of unsweetened cocoa powder. Now add 1/4 a teaspoon of baking soda into your dry mixture and 1/4 teaspoon of salt. I like to combine all my dry ingredients with a fork, but you can combine them with a whisk or even a spoon. And you just want to make sure that it's all one color. You don't want them to have different colors where there's cocoa powder and then flour. You want it to all be combined so your brownies have a combined flavor to them and not just a flavor of just flour or just cocoa powder. You can just put that bowl to the side of your dry ingredients, and we can start on our wet ingredients. So to our wet ingredients, we're going to add half a cup of softened butter, and we are going to add 1 cup of granulated sugar, and you're just going to mix these two together. Now to our wet ingredients, add 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract and 2 eggs. When we are mixing our wet ingredients together, you want to make sure it all comes together and there's no chunks. And by doing that, we should be using either a whisk or a wooden spoon. A wooden spoon would be better. We could even use a harder spatula like I've shown in my previous videos. But personally, I think a wooden spoon is the best way to ensure that everything's getting mixed together with minimal chunks. Now that we have both our wet and our dry ingredients mixed in their own separate bowls, we want to add the dry ingredients to the wet batter. So how we're going to do this is I'm just going to add 1/3 a cup each time I am trying to combine them two together. This makes sure I don't over put too many dry ingredients and make it hard to mix, and it makes it cleaner to do this too because you're not getting flour going all the way everywhere and all the dry ingredients spilling out because it's too much in the bowl at once. So we're just going to take our times, make sure we're scraping the side of the bowl with a spatula, and we want to just repeat this by adding 1/3 a cup each time until our batter is all together and both the dry and wet ingredients are all mixed. Once your batter's all mixed together, it should look like this. It should be really thick and it should be a rich brown chocolate color. Now we can transfer it to the pan. If you would like, you can add chocolate chips to this. I would add around 1 cup of chocolate chips in this batter, if based on preferences. And then you could also add walnuts to this, but I'm just going to leave it plain. And you just want to transfer it by taking a spatula. I've got a mini spatula here. It's just easier to use for me. And you're just gonna first scrape your wooden spoon off. You wanna make sure you're getting all your batter into your bowl and into the pan. So you're just gonna scrape your wooden spoon or whatever you used to mix your ingredients together. And now you're just gonna scrape the bowl and make sure all your batter is getting into your pan. Now that your batter's in your pan, you want to spread it out. You want to make sure it's an even layer and that the batter is covering your whole pan. I like to use a harder spatula for this because I think it's easier to use. So this is a stiffer spatula. As you can see, the rubber's much thicker than a regular spatula. Your brownie pan should look like that with your batter in it. And now you want to just pop this into your oven that's already preheated, and you want to bake this for around 25 to 30 minutes. To ensure that your brownie's cooked all the way through, you want to check it with a toothpick by just putting a toothpick through it and making sure no batter or nothing is sticking to your toothpick, and then you know your brownies are cooked all the way through and ready to take out the oven. This is how your brownies should look after they're done baking, and it should be more crispy on the outside and have a softer inner part. And now you can just transfer them onto a cutting board and cut them up to serve. You want to make sure before cutting that you leave them in the pan to cool for around 30 minutes. Once you have cut them, they're all ready to serve and enjoy.